Hello, and welcome to the Front Lounge episode 33. Very important episode. Here's Danny,
Hello.
Dylan,
Hello.
the three of us. Jesse will be joining us remotely a little later on. Off the bat, just wanted to say make sure that you tune in next week. We've got a very special guest here, local band that Danny actually ran into and met at a Cannons concert. He went because we know their manager and bumped into these people, started chatting with them. Their name is Jane Leo. Leo, part of Jane Leo, was formerly Leopold and his fiction, who some of you might know out there. Anyway, they're going to be our guests next week here in the studio, and we have done a remix for one of their tracks called Big Life. And it's a really cool track, their version, and then I think we did some cool stuff with the remix. So that'll be coming out next Friday, which is December 9th, and we'll preview it on the stream next week, live from the studio with them. Yeah, with Danny, we're finally starting to get out and meet people in the universe, all of us via different methods, but it's nice to be working on music here in Austin. Again, it feels like we're actually doing it, not just talking about it.
There's actually a thriving music scene here, and I thought it was... We'd only ever been to Austin for South by or ACL, and then if you only go kind of downtown by the, or North Austin, it doesn't really convey what the weird aspect of Austin or the old Austin that people would always talk about. It does exist, and there's just shitloads of musicians, really good musicians here.
They're not exaggerating when they say live music capital of the world. I always thought that was wrong, but it's insane. Every bar advertises basically 7 days a week live music everywhere.
Yeah,
it's like the Spotify of the world.
Yeah, you see that 100,000 songs a day. Spotify's up to 100,000 uploads a day, and 80% of them have a listenership under 50 monthly listeners.
Yeah, I
think
seen
it's
that
bots.
similar
It's bot,
statistic.
Yeah, I think it's bots. I also think when I was putting my lyric and song in the notes for this episode, and I was trying to find a particular Joni Mitchell song, and I saw this album. It was piano renditions of Joni Mitchell songs. So I clicked on it and listened to it. And it sounds like, and I'm 100% convinced of this, they just downloaded the MIDI information of the songs, put it on a shitty sounding piano, and uploaded it without even editing it, because there was no pedal information in it. It was all weirdly quantized.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dylan's
Andrea
wearing
in the
merch.
chat
Yeah.
just pointed out that Dylan's wearing our own merch, which, hey,
I'm
that's
running-
the most you only know that if you're a Congress fan. It doesn't
Yeah.
look like Congress merch.
I've worn I wear our merch a lot because last year when we were boxing some stuff up and giving stuff away and doing all those sales, I took a whole bunch home, and so I wear it a lot out, and like sometimes I've gotten into conversations about what I do, and I'm like, I'm in a band with my brothers, and they're like, is that the band? Because one of them says, I wear the Congress Brothers shirt, the one that says Congress Brothers.
And then you can say, that's me.
All right, check this out. I'm going to share the screen real quick. This is my little silly reel I did the other day, and then let's talk about this.
When keeping it real goes wrong.
Johnny Congus here, Platinum Certified Songwriter and Gratitude Coach. Now, I'm not going to get into a debate about Thanksgiving food because we can all agree it's disgusting. But I would like to talk about the idea of thankfulness and how best to express it. Now, this might seem kind of obvious, but you actually have to express it publicly, preferably on social media. Now, until you put in the 10,000 hours like I have practicing gratitude, you're not going to be able to get away with just wearing a hoodie. You're going to have to put a little more effort into your outfit to truly show how grateful you are. Generally speaking, the safest bet is to just go with yoga clothes. So like tight-fitting pants and a loose-fitting shirt, or the opposite, loose-fitting pants and a tight-fitting shirt. So obviously there's a lot more to cover, like lighting, hashtags, emojis, and that sort of thing. But I think we'll stop here for today. If you're an American and you celebrate Thanksgiving, I would just like to say you're welcome.
So I don't want to talk. We can talk about gratitude if you want to actually get into a deep conversation. I want to talk about the fact that Thanksgiving food sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does.
I saw pictures of people posting their Thanksgiving meals, and it's like I don't know what the word is, food porn. It's like, what's the worst type of porn you can think of? It was terrible looking.
Yeah, it's all kind of sweet.
Yeah,
It's like cranberry sauce, and then the sweet potatoes, and then even the mashed potatoes are undersalted all the time. You know, anytime I've ever had like
It looks like to me those like TV meals or whatever they,
Yeah.
the pre-made TV
Hungry
meals.
Man.
Yeah, it looks like that. That's what Thanksgiving food looks like.
right. Yeah.
Like it's all just been pre-processed in some factory and been sitting there for a year waiting for the third Thursday of November to come out.
yeah. Then there's all the obvious ones that are terrible, like the marshmallows on top of mashed potatoes. Mm-hmm. That began, I believe, not as a dessert, like as a dessert, whatever, like sweet stuff you can get away with a lot more, but it's not actually meant to be a dessert. It's meant to be a side dish. Mm-hmm. Disgusting.
Right. There's also I've noticed this obsession. It applies to barbecue here, but just in general, there's an obsession with the texture of meat in America. Like, oh, is it the right moistness? Or your turkey was dry. Oh no, you fucked the turkey up. It's dry. And it's like, okay, that everything matters, and it's good to try to get whatever you're trying to get right about your food right. But it's just the way you're built. It seems like texture and that kind of stuff is overemphasized, and flavor is just completely ignored.
What's also like when people talk about, why does New York pizza taste better? Is it the water? Is it this, that, and the other? And in 99% of the cases, it's because you're not making good pizza. Like
Yeah.
they're trying to get down like it's some small detail. Like you're just making shit pizza.
Right.
Same thing with Thanksgiving food. They're worried about whether the turkey's dry. Like the whole meal is shit. What are you worried about turkey being dry for?
It's like in Indian food, there's so much just mushy food. Indian food's textures. Like there's saag paneer, all the dals, everything is just like watery and mushy, but the taste is... Mom made Greek food for this Thanksgiving, and it was some of the best... It was
Tell you what,
some of the best meals she's ever made.
I took the gigantes home, which is like Greek beans with red sauce.
giant lima beans in a tomato base.
And then I done put my barbecue sauce that I done made on it, and it was the best barbecue beans I done ever had.
That sounds pretty good, actually. You guys remember Andrew Zimmer, and he used to host that show, Weird Food, something or other, talking about this texture idea of food. He went somewhere, it was, I think, Beijing, and he did a royal, like an imperial Chinese meal. So like actual Chinese food that was served to the royalty like over the last 100 years.
Just eels, which is all.
Yeah, no, and he's like, literally ate everything, and there were 3 or 4 dishes on that they served that he said he just couldn't do. He couldn't do. He was out, and it was a texture thing. He says, not a taste thing. And it was like because in like different parts of the world, they just don't have the same problem with slime, gristle, like that hairiness, like of an artichoke or that sort of thing. Like some of those times they're considered delicacies. And it was funny watching him because you're usually going like, oh, fuck, I can't believe he's eating that. And then he was there trying to choke down whatever it was they were serving him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came across it on Reddit as well, but remember in the show Billions, they do the thing where they eat the baby bird and they put the thing over their head. Like they take a baby bird and they torture it.
It's a baby
boil it.
rare bird.
Yeah, it's an endangered species bird. This is a French thing. The French, when it comes to food, the French are the most fucked up people on earth.
I'm just going to clip that. The French are the most fucked up people on earth.
Because, I mean, they got foie gras, they've got all this stuff, and it's just weirdly torturous. So I don't know what this is called, but in the show Billions, they kind of do a description of it. These billionaires go to this restaurant where it's illegal, and it's a bird that's been boiled alive or something like that. It's a baby thing, and it's been then soaked in...
No, they drown it in brandy.
Oh, right, yeah. They drown it in brandy, and then it's been soaking there for a while. Then they fry it, and you eat it with a napkin over your head to avoid the shame of doing something so, like...
Indulgent.
Yeah, indulgent and gross or grotesque. And the sound... They captured the sound in that scene of them biting into it because it's bones and everything. Like it's been soaking for so long that you can eat the bones. It won't cut your mouth or anything. They bite into it, and that sound is like, okay, that texture is taking it too far.
Yeah. I like Napoleon, but only the boner part. That's a Chevy lyric, by the way. Don't try to take it. Yeah, that's this really stupid, that kind of obsession with novelty and whatever you want to call that. Barry Lyndon, that's a great Kubrick movie. Kind of captures that element of French fashion and high society back then,
Yeah.
and just the psychoticness of it, how everything was based on appearances and you know, rank and all that kind of
It's
stuff.
also like an end times thing. You know, whenever a culture gets to being rich effectively and they have too much time on their hands not doing things that are necessary, like surviving, it's just the brain has to go everywhere. You have to climb every mountain and then you have to explore every food. What if we ate this? Like someone says here in the chat, let's stuff a chicken into a duck and then stuff it into a turkey, cook them son of a bitches and eat it. And like, it's not a joke. People do that.
Right.
And, you know, it's just like this
Have you
weird...
seen that? Look up. Can you look up
Turducken.
on their Florida octopus Thanksgiving?
I don't want to look that up.
Yeah, look up Florida. It's like a Florida octopus. It's like a crab and a turkey and a octopus on. Yeah, just click on images. You may have to turn safe search off.
What?
Oh, I see it there.
Yeah.
Fucking God damn
Yeah.
it.
That's a thing that I mean I don't know if it's a meme but it's like so they put the turkey on a crab and then they put the octopus in it.
I mean, all these things, someone does as a joke, and then there's a bunch of people that do it for real. There's a subreddit I follow called Stupid Food, and it's weird now. There's this new thing I came across. I mean, it's not new that I've come across this, but I've come across the term for what it's called, which is, I think it's called rage bait, where people post intentionally
Annoying.
rage-inducing things. So I feel like a lot of these food things, particularly, are doing that. Even that chef reactions guy on TikTok.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get tagged in things, and I know those accounts are just very subtly trolling. And I appreciate a good subtle troll.
Right.
But now it's becoming so hard to distinguish between who's a fucking idiot and who's a really genius troll.
Right. Yeah.
Let's do a little bit of news.
News. Events. Important. Gossip. Stories. Terrifying. Concerning. This is the news.
This is the news. This is the news.
This is the news.
So this is a Vice article, which, you know, take it with a grain of salt, but this is a phenomenon. Robot landlords are buying up houses. And what they mean, like,
Also,
by that-
algorithms are buying up houses.
it's algorithms, obviously, that they are outsourced. These giant investment firms are just putting it out to an AI that says, look for this price threshold, this sort of thing, buy it. So we know that's going on. It's driving up prices everywhere, why no one can afford a house right now. But it was pretty crazy statistic to me. There's a company, Invitation Homes, that's doing with this, has 80,000 houses they own. Jeff Bezos has got into it, a bunch of different other companies doing it. So according to this article, institutional investment companies only own 3% of single family homes, rental market, generally speaking. But some areas, Atlanta, they're saying they own 1 in 5 single family home rentals.
Jeez.
And like that is absolutely
Serfdom.
insane to think about. That, yeah, we're back to this. I mean, not back to, it's always been that way, but it's just so apparent now, the landlord serf class sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I always like to get to know my neighbors, and I was talking to the Vanguard group and BlackRock, actually. They're on the opposite. They're kitty corner. BlackRock's kitty corner, Vanguard.
Honey, should we invite Vanguard and BlackRock to Thanksgiving dinner?
You know, they were lonely. I didn't see the lights on, so I just left a pie on the front doorstep of BlackRock.
That's a funny skit if someone could animate that out.
I forgot the numbers. I mean, we've talked about this before. If you look up how much Vanguard and BlackRock own, what their assets under management are.
Trillions.
Oh, it's beyond trillions. I think they're up to now 20 or 30 trillion dollars if you combine them. Don't quote me on this, but any number I say is going to be impressive and close to whatever they own. It's something like a third of the world's wealth is under the management of BlackRock and Vanguard.
More than I make
33%
in a
of this
week.
podcast is probably owned by them. Here's another news story in relation to this, actually. Howard Stern man of the people, is lambasting Oprah Winfrey for flaunting her wealth on social media, saying there are people struggling out there. And look, every time I read a headline, I'm going to stop saying this. Yeah, read the article. Maybe he didn't say that. It could just be clickbait headlines. But I have a feeling he did, because there's nothing that rich people like more than
attacking
other rich people who are richer than them, and pretending like they're men of the people.
Yeah, see, what we do is we pick on institutional firms. It's not personal. Oh, now we're picking on Howard Stern, though.
Yeah, well, listen, everyone's richer than us that I want to pick on, and everyone else, I'm like them. I'm like everyone else.
I mean, yeah, that's a bit of a bizarre thing for someone. Didn't he sold to Sirius for $500 million?
It was.
He did.
I can't remember the number, but it was
8-year contract or something like that for $500 million.
He's complaining about the fact that
same...
she's flaunting it, but it's like, what isn't flaunting it? Just by using an iPhone. I know this is like it's becoming like the meme argument now to just say like, oh, you have an iPhone, but it is a legitimate argument. Just by using an iPhone, you're flaunting it to billions of people.
Also, pretending you're not wealthy is a kind of flaunt, because now you're trying to have your cake and eat it too. Yeah. Now you're just like, now you're rich and you're being, but I'm also still humble. And
the ultimate rich move is to believe in communism.
Right.
Like not because you actually believe in workers' rights or something, but just because it's like
it's like when Warren Buffett says,
frontier.
I want to pay more taxes.
We're back to Warren Buffett.
Warren fucking Buffett.
Jesse's back. How's it going?
Hey, what's up, guys? What did I miss? Anything good?
We were just talking about the fact that Howard Stern is lambasting Oprah Winfrey for being too flaunting of her richness, and just like the ridiculousness of rich people shouting at other rich people.
Yeah, I mean, isn't he worth like $500 million or something like
Something
that?
At least, yeah. I think that was his one contract with Sirius, which then was re-upped, was $500 million for like 8 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I that's probably worse, is pretending that you're not rich.
Everything I say now I have to preface with like, don't quote me on it, because I don't want to be fact checked on the internet. But one of Taylor Swift's lyrics in one of her new things is like, I grew up in a farmhouse. No, it wasn't no mansion. It was just like, it was bills around the dinner table or something like that. And so someone showed the picture of her childhood home, and it's like a farm mansion.
Right.
Well, I've been watching The Crown, and it's a kind of a shit show, but I'm in now. I guess I'm like everyone, just kind of interested to see how they portray the various eras of the royal family. But there is an aspect of them, particularly the Queen, that I like. Like, she doesn't give a fuck. She's like, I am the Queen. This is a 1,000-year-old institution. Let's stop pretending anything else. Yeah. They go shake
I
the
am the one
hand.
who killed Dracula and took his place.
There's something honest about it. They're not pretending.
Right.
Like at least she isn't.
No, they truly think they're the like descendants of Jesus Christ or something like that, or according to Dan Brown.
No.
Can we just can be on a button according to Dan Brown?
Dude, I watched another Dan Brown series, some modern, more recent one, and it's so bad that it's really good to watch. It's like a drinking game type of show, where it was like, actually, the ratio of this clipboard is the same as the pyramids. If we just turn it this way, we can open up the cipher. It was fucking awesome.
National Treasure is such a better movie of that type.
Oh yeah,
with Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
There was a couple years where that was like literally on TV on every channel all the time. I don't know if you needed money for the syndication rights or something like that, but you couldn't get away from it. And for like that kind of corny movie, it was much better. I remember reading the one or two of the books, like Da Vinci Code and stuff like that, and you kind of get sucked in, especially when you're a bit younger, and like, it's compelling. And then the movie with Tom Hanks was so bad. It was.
It's partly compelling because there is enough of it that's true in there.
Yeah,
there's enough real history.
Like 10% truth.
Mm. Speaking of Tom Hanks and Nicolas Cage, they're both very divisive characters, because some people think Nicolas Cage sucks. I think he's fucking amazing. And people generally like Tom Hanks, I guess. I don't know. That guy sucks.
Are you just setting me up? Because this is my shtick. There's nothing I love more than talking about how bad of an actor Tom Hanks is.
Yeah, it is. It's also, I guess it's time. Time reveals what
I
lost.
think he got bad. I think he, when you get to a certain level of fame, it's actually really difficult to act well because you're so well known, your face, your voice, everything's so well known that to kind of not be seen as that person is really, really hard.
Yeah.
Or not be seen as one of your famous characters. And so I think in a way it gets harder. But yeah, in sort of as time's gone on, I find him harder to believe. Whereas Nicolas Cage, it's like his bad movies are just so obviously bad that it's still kind of fun. And then there's some movies where he just, is pretty amazing, like
He's
genuinely good.
He's just generally rough around the edges. I think that's what's so likable about
Nick
him.
Cage?
Yeah.
He's got
just-
some proper crazy in there that
Yeah.
gives him some element of mystery.
And he's
to
not
him.
stupid. He's definitely not stupid. He's doing a lot of stuff intentionally, and he's attempting to kind of get outside of himself. Whereas Tom Hanks is just like playing Tom Hanks all the time. It's so
Well, the way to do it would be to say, let's pick what they're generally accepted are their three best roles and
Right.
compare those. So obviously Tom Hanks is going to be what?
Saving
Forrest
Private-
Gump, Saving Private. Okay, Saving Private Ryan, I would say that he was
No,
good.
Saving Private Ryan sucked. I'm serious. That movie sucks. They show guts once in the beginning, and then it just becomes basically war propaganda.
Yeah,
it has no. There's not like Full Metal Jacket. That's a great.
I think I just had this thought now. I think you could determine whether someone's a good actor or not if they've ever played a villain or not the hero. And Tom Hanks is, and now that I'm thinking about it, I think he's only played the hero or the good guy. And when you think of like Joaquin Phoenix or Marlon Brando in Platoon, like they played really disgusting people sometimes. Like Joaquin Phoenix in The Gladiator.
Not Platoon, Apocalypse Now.
Apocalypse Now, yeah. In The Gladiator, Joaquin
Right.
Phoenix, he looks like Joaquin Phoenix, but his role is that you just detest him, you fucking hate him.
Yeah.
And that makes a good actor. Tom Hanks, has he ever played anything like that?
I
No,
you'd have
he
to
has
think. I'm
played.
sure he must have, but he was in Road to Perdition. He played a hitman.
No, yeah, but like everyone likes
Yeah.
the hitman, like
Yeah.
they like
Yeah.
they,
Sorry,
they
can
glamorize
I interrupt you guys? We're going to go to the chat here because Teen Boba Fett. First of all-
Philadelphia. I agree with that.
yeah, but he's saying, "Oh, Danny just became my least favorite Congus." That means you're a good actor, Dan. You're playing the villain. This
But
is
I
a
do
funny
agree with
comment.
Philadelphia. I forgot about Philadelphia. That movie's great.
Tom Hanks is currently making his 2 Oscars kiss as Teen Boba Fett.
Real life villain in Elvis. Is this the new Elvis movie?
I guess so.
Okay, so
I
he
can't
played.
bring myself really to watch.
There we
that.
go. Dina's saying he played the bad guy in the Elvis movie and he sucked.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that something needs to be said about Tom Hanks. You know what I mean? It's more just like so many people get so much shit out there. How come he doesn't get any shit?
Also, I've said this probably 1,000 times, but if you go watch Forrest
a
Gump
bad
now and
movie.
try to tell me that is a good movie, you are high. And if you're high, it's even worse because then you see the horrific acting like magnified.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to sound like a broken record here, guys.
But if you go watch Raising Arizona, it's still great.
oh yeah,
Yeah. And
Yeah,
Nick-
well,
and
that's
Nick-
also Coen Brothers. So.
right. Yeah. Yeah, and even Ghost Rider is
dude,
pretty.
that's
Coen
how bad
Brothers.
Tom Hanks is. He was in that movie, The Lady Killers, which is a Coen Brothers movie, right? I'm
can't
going to get that
remember.
wrong?
I
Can
can't-
someone in the chat
think that's
correct
right,
that?
yeah.
If that's correct, let's just make it correct from my point to make sense here. He messed up that movie, and the movie was bad, mostly because of him.
Also, the
Well,
worst
let's just-
Tom Hanks movie is Castaway because he's the only one in it. Like at least the other movies, there's other people in it.
Team Boba Fett says I'm correct, by the way, on that. All right, should we move on to something else?
Tim Hanks.
I don't think Dina's used his correct name once in her title. Tim Hanks.
Maybe Tim is her
Just scroll up, Joe.
boyfriend or husband or something.
Scroll up. It says Tim Hanks.
Oh, sorry.
I just feel like Tom Hanks would have been better as a diplomat.
Tim Banks.
Big Lebowski for the win. Yeah. Team Boba Fett, there are many Coen Brothers movies I think that could win in any number of categories, but even the fact that it's been completely memed like to oblivion, Big Lebowski still is basically one of the greatest movies of all time, I think.
I think you probably get agreement across the board on that. And if
Yeah,
you're not,
and
leave
then
the
just
chat.
so that we're not all thought of as people who only shit on things, every single person in that movie is perfect. Even Flea.
Yeah.
Yeah, John Goodman's fucking unbelievable, and
What other epic 50-year-long career actors can we take a dump on from here in our little podcast?
yeah. I had forgotten about Philadelphia. I thought that was really good, and he was good in Catch Me If You Can. I'm not like vehemently opposed to Tom Hanks. I just think he should be banned from acting.
We're not knocking Flea, by the way. Team Boba Fett says don't knock Flea in the chat. Flea's a better actor than Tom Hanks. Of all the Toms, Tom Hanks is the worst. Tom
Yeah.
Cruise, way better.
Chet Hanks is a better actor than Tom Hanks.
All right, here we go. I'm going to just capture my screen here. I've showed this dude before. His name is Jeremy Fragrance. He's a gigantic superstar. And I just watched this video and tell me if you think he should be arrested just for being a sleaze. Oops, sorry.
Very attractive woman. Do you speak English?
Yes,
Whoa.
I do.
So, what fragrance do you wear? Female Musk. You are freshly showered.
Yes.
Nothing special on you, right?
No, I just have, I think it's called from Marc Jacobs.
Okay.
It's orange. I don't know the name.
Oh, she smells good. She looks good,
Thank you.
and she asked for a picture. Let's go grocery shopping.
What? I've never heard of this guy. What is he?
He's like the real life perfume guy.
Yeah, he got like 5 or 6 million followers on Instagram. Or it's absolutely insane. And he reviews perfumes. He's got his own perfume brands. I'll show one more. This is like Silence of the Lambs vibes.
What are the sexiest woman fragrances? We have a couple of options. But of course, what is sexy, just recently released, is the Yves Saint Laurent Libre. What is also sexy is the Chanel Coco Mademoiselle, although it's a fresh fragrance, and usually fresh fragrances are not sexy for women. But the sexiest woman fragrance that exists is my fragrance called Night for Woman. It's sweet, sexy, yummy.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's fucking great. Have you seen the movie Perfume?
Yeah, we watched that.
It's
Remember,
also-
Mo
I think-
made us watch it on
yeah.
the bus.
It's really bad. I think Tom Hanks was in it. But it was... Who was in it? What's his name? Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah.
But have you seen... Remember, like, basically, the guy ends up, like, killing, like, virgins, right?
Making perfume out of their skin or something.
Yeah.
I mean, but the funny thing about that video, the first one with that fragrance guy, is that he's not making that up. That girl came up to him in a grocery store to get a selfie with him. He's that famous
Right,
that he
I
just
know.
gets stopped. And I guess it's one of those things you just never. How many people are following him like we are, because it's such a spectacle, freak show joke, and how many people are like, oh, I love this guy.
Says Johnny in his new sweatsuit.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Something about what I got out of that second video was, a very great degree of what we all experience when you look in the mirror. You know how basically if you look in the mirror and if you could kind of magically take a picture or whatever at the same time that you're looking, and then look at the picture and compare it to the image that you saw in the mirror, you realize that it's not the same, that your eyes and your brain is doing some sort of processing, like, Photoshop, basically lying to yourself. You think you're telling yourself you look slightly different than you are. And that's on a spectrum, depending on how deluded you are at any given time. And it seems to me like he has maybe an exaggerated distortion lens on how he views himself. I don't know.
It's like some
I'm judging here, but
it's some kind
That's
of
what I got.
self-dysmorphia, And you're right. We all have that. We're not seeing ourselves as we are. If we were, it would be a radical moment of enlightenment. But I've thought nowadays that with the resolution of TV screens getting up to like 8K that you can get pretty easily, it would be really interesting to set up a digital mirror that had a perfectly placed camera where you could look at yourself, but it delays it just enough to trick your brain into actually seeing yourself a little differently, because we're so accustomed to seeing a mirror that you don't actually see in a mirror. You know, you have the same kind of dysmorphia, and I don't even mean that in the kind of pathological sense of that word, but you don't see it as accurately. If you put a time delay, you would actually see it the same way when you watch a video back of yourself.
Yeah.
What was I just going to say about that? No, I can't remember.
We'll just pause on the shot of Dylan while he tries to figure out what he's doing.
I don't think I was listening to you.
So you guys know who Wim Hof is? I don't know him that well. He's the breathing exercises, very pro getting cold and the benefits of that for your physical body, your spiritual body, all that sort of thing. He's a fairly interesting, serious guy, but I just thought this video is like, come on.
Love.
What?
Yeah. I mean, you can't be good at everything.
Yeah.
I've thought
Every armor has its kinks.
I've been going through the podcast trying to find clips to post on Instagram and I've come across 2 so far of Danny going, Jesus Christ, about something. I thought we could actually make it a segment. See if Johnny can find a video to make Danny go, Jesus Christ.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say now. Yeah, it's Instagram and all these filters. Maybe I've talked about this before. I think the front-facing camera is automatically, when you're on FaceTime, is automatically doing smooth skinning. Skin smoothing. Smooth skinning? I don't know. That might be something different.
Doing that in general.
Jeffrey Dahmer's phone.
If you use portrait mode on the iPhone, I think it does skin smoothing and all kinds of touch up.
Yeah, because like on Instagram they have different filters, and I didn't know it because I'm always using I've been taking pictures of the garden and stuff. I'm looking for something to replicate the light properly, and so some of those work, and then you turn it around, and it looks really weird. Your face looks fucking weird, and it's just also it's weird when people use it thinking it's not noticeable. I don't think it's. Maybe it's getting to the point where people are just now. It's like that Cartman episode, South Park episode with Cartman talking about his girlfriend, and everyone's talking about how hot she is. And they're only viewing the girlfriend through her Instagram, and they're like, "Oh, his other 3 friends aren't falling for it." They're like, "Hey, Cartman, she's here in real. We can see her in real life. That's not what she looks like." And they're like, "No, but have you seen her on? Have you seen the latest picture she posted?"
All right, here's another dude I came across. So everyone knows Liver King and like this obsession with eating only meat and all that. This guy, I don't know if he's trolling or if it's real. He's taking it a step further. Let me just refresh the page.
Butter review?
His name's Butter__dog.
This I might find useful because I'm looking for a good butter.
Okay, but
review for you guys. Today we're gonna try Kerrygold salted butter.
Whoa, it's salted?
I've only heard good things about it. I know these are pasture-raised cows. It says it's grass-fed, so it should be pretty good.
Paster?
He eats it in the...
That's creamy. That's rich. That's really good butter. I love this stuff.
Okay.
You should get together with the perfume guy.
Yeah. So this next one here. This guy here, Butter Dog, is day 3 of 30, I guess, of eating a stick of butter, right?
Day 3 of eating a stick of butter every single day for 30 days. Today, I'm feeling really, really good, and I'm excited about this one because we're going to eat it in the portable sauna today. These are 2 things that are excellent for your heart, so let's get started.
Now, if you just watch these, you'd think he was just trolling, but if you watch the rest of his videos,
How did you find him? He only has 5,000 followers.
I don't know.
Couldn't he just drink cream? Isn't cream just unchurned butter.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just another one of those things where he's just eating like endless.
This is what a successful hunt looks like. I told my buddy when he was deer hunting, save all the organs.
So again, it's one of those things like I'm not opposed to eating organs or the butter or whatever. If they just take it to the
Everything just
logical,
becomes a kind of
just joke, you know.
Performance, basically. Yeah. Although, Kerry Gold, I used to like that, but it's tasted different. And they changed the ingredients. They added.
Yeah, that German butter from Whole Foods is still the best. They've been out of it recently, but then they got some in.
Plus
and
the price.
did an AB.
The price of butter has like doubled, dude. That's when you know.
Yeah, food shortages is really starting to become a thing. So these next couple things I'm going to show have a kind of a purpose of where they're going. There's this guy I came across, Timon.Creek. He's got like 100,000 followers. I'll read it because it's kind of hard to see the screen. So he's like a workout, super fit, buff dude. He seems fairly young, like, I don't know, 20 or something. He says, I'm convinced I'm not from this generation. I don't like the idea of 2-month, 6-month, even 2-year relationships. I only want a relationship to be my forever. I want all the cringy dates, random romantic gestures, and to get married to my person. All the things that were normal for couples 100 years ago. I think this generation has forgot what real love is. So he's looking for a date, basically.
He's looking for arranged marriages, sounds like.
And he says this next one, right, that's it. I'm no longer interested in dating, or I'm no longer dating. If you're interested in me, I need a 500-word essay on how you will not waste my time. Here's another video of him working out, saying, I really don't belong in this generation because when I say I love you, I mean that shit. Last one here. I'm content with being alone, but if God wanted to send me a gym girl who will spot me on my bench and match outfits, I wouldn't mind. It's not that funny, that one particularly, but it's just an interesting. I've seen this style of content becoming really popular with, long text across a video of really like earnest, but not really like they read it
Sally
in a book.
Slices. Have you seen that guy?
Yeah, but that guy comes across to me as fairly normal,
piss,
and it's like he's self-aware. It's hard again with this guy to tell whether he's self-aware.
No, I think as with us, there is always an aspect of self-awareness or kind of manipulation going on. It's just like that's a bizarre thing,
right?
Like to wrap it up entirely in this false earnestness,
Yeah.
Like you can't be doing this like.
Well, it's also
saying that.
It's also that it just again transparency. It comes across. He's just looking for chicks, man.
Yeah.
And it comes across as fake again. But it got me to thinking, and maybe we can transition into deep thoughts a little bit with this, is that the quote, like the idea of a quote, is a powerful and a dangerous thing. So when I think of quotes as like go to find a poignant, like distilled little bit of information, I always think of Ralph Waldo Emerson because he's got so many of them. And he's also, I think, one of the most, not misquoted, but like casually quoted people taken out of context of his essays or his greater writings. And he's got all these quotes. I'm just going to pull them up and just read. This is
my favorite Ralph Waldo Emerson quote is, don't give me quotes, tell me what you know.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that one. I thought you were going to say, I hate Tom Hanks or something. So if you just go look on his quote page, this is where every Instagram person now is putting these types of quotes everywhere.
Right.
All life is an experiment. The more experiments you make, the better. It's not the length of life, but the depth.
That's a dick joke.
Yeah. We aim above the mark to hit the mark. Do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. So it's all these ones now that have become basically these cliches that everyone's posting, and they've led to a lot of what I think is this modern like manifestation type of people, just like blaze your own path, put it out there into the universe, and everything will be given to you. And he's got a lot of quotes that if you just read them on the surface, isolated out, you'd think, oh, he's the father of this. In the same way that Miles Davis is the father of smooth jazz, but we can't blame Miles Davis for what the shit it's become. I think you can't blame Emerson. So what I wanted to do is pull up, it'll take a little second, but I think it might be worth to have a more serious discussion, is a little bit more of one of his essays that's often quoted. So this is the opening lines from an essay he wrote called Self-Reliance. So I'm just going to read a little bit of it and we can discuss it. I read the other day some verses written by an eminent painter which were original and not conventional. The soul always hears an admonition in such lines, let the subject be what it may. The sentiment they instill is of more value than any thought they may contain. To believe your own thought, to believe that what is true for you in your private heart is true for all men, that is genius. Speak your latent conviction, and it shall be the universal sense, for the inmost in due time becomes the outmost, and our first thought is rendered back to us by the trumpets of the last judgment. Familiar as the voice of the mind is to each, the highest merit we ascribe to Moses, Plato, and Milton is that they set at naught books and traditions, and spoke not what men, but what they thought. A man should learn to detect and watch the gleam of light which flashes across his mind from within, more than the luster of the firmament of bards and sages. So it's a really long essay called Self-Reliance that I think modern conservatives have taken to mean fuck the poor.
Right.
Charity sucks. Like the right's done that. The hippy dippy people have taken it to be like, just be yourself, man. Mm-hmm. And there's a great quote in there later in the thing that to be great is to be misunderstood. And I recommend anyone that's not read this essay to go read it because it's, for me, one of the most profound things ever written. And what the thing that he says in the very beginning of that is genius because he finds something in himself that it could only have come from himself. If he had just read other writings, regurgitated them, wrote, it wouldn't have had the emotional depth that I think is perceptible at certain times in it. And he ends up then speaking what he's talking about, the universal voice of a global, universal, objective understanding that appears to be there occasionally. And men like him, people, I don't mean men, people bring it out like him.
To kind of go back to your original point about quotes, to use an analogy like a balsamic reduction, you can't skip the process of reducing, something that is kind of full of fluff into this sort of essence, and it's like if you just pluck the quote, if you pluck that amount of balsamic vinegar out of a bottle as opposed to reducing it to that amount, it doesn't have the same impact. And it's a silly analogy, but I think like a quote, if you just pluck it without any depth and, without bringing something to it yourself, the fractal greater picture behind it, then it's very easy to just have a superficial, diluted version of it. I know I have to use it like a food analogy to speak on these things, but
well, I think it's a modern, I've been reading about this in another book, and it's not anti-materialist, it's not anti-modern science saying that, there is stuff to be understood in the material universe, but it's the approach of constantly trying to find the part of something, which is what a quote, like they're constantly trying to break down the words into these small little segments and then lose sight of the whole. And there's that Sufi analogy of a man trying to understand what a fly is. So he takes it apart and plucks the wings off and plucks the legs off and breaks it apart and takes the organs out and thinks he understands what a fly is because he's pulled everything apart. And we do that, I think, linguistically and in language, is that sometimes for me, that essay, like you have to understand the parts. It's not anti-part. You have to understand the parts, but it doesn't give you a sense of what the whole thing does. And for me, that particularly just it transmits emotion beyond words.
Well, I think that's the purpose of language. And
right.
It's and it needs to be kept in mind that the purpose of language is to compartmentalize everything and to rationalize it, to chop it up. And it's, so I think the way when I don't like when people talk about connectedness and we're actually all one, because you can use some analogy, or like Alan Watts would do it a lot. He'd say, well, where does the sun end? The sun starts here, but it goes on. So what is the sun? And it's a useful analogy. But once you've accepted that as an idea, Willow, stop. I'm trying to talk here.
Once you've accepted that,
I find it more useful to remember that the purpose of language is to rationalize,
Yeah,
and then it changes the way you use it, because it's Wittgenstein, I think, the philosopher. He says that which about you cannot be explicit, you should be silent, and it's a relegation of language to be a rational, explicit tool.
Right. Yes, and that's what I think. All these the book I'm reading about this idea is it's not saying that we shouldn't explore the parts. And the incisive, I think, is a good word for that, because it allows you to differentiate and classify, which is very important. But it cannot only be that.
Right.
I think a big difficulty with all these old quotes, because I read Self-Reliance recently as well, or at least the first few paragraphs of it, because I was in a discussion about all sorts of things, politics with someone, and I thought, you know what, Self-Reliance is going to be like the perfect condensation or crystallization of what I'm trying to say. And then I started reading it, and I had the same thought go through my mind that, like, basically the right, like conservatives, have ruined this idea of self-reliance, and the left liberals have also ruined it, because the meaning of self has become only this materialistic outer form, which is like, it's like, fuck the poor, rely on yourself, and never help the poor. You know, like, never help people out. That's become the meaning of it. So now you can't, someone with that with that mindset can't even read something like Self-Reliance. Or if they're an atheist, they definitely can't read Self-Reliance, because he talks about the divine a lot. Yeah. So whether you believe in some divine or some creator or not, you could still extract enormous wisdom out of it. But so I didn't end up not sending it to the person, because I was like, it's actually going to have no impact.
Right.
It's also because of the language now, which has a certain weight or connection.
But that materialism aspect of self has resulted in a false dichotomy, where it is the right viewing it as this kind of everything, I'm out for myself kind of thing, and then the socially minded or people just dismissing the idea of self-development, because there's collective issues which are so important, which we should only be thinking about, these collective issues and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like it's the words, we need a new, you know what word I like is soma. The Greeks used it because they distinguished between your external perception of a person and your internal perception of yourself. And you would say, like, from my experience, this is a somatic experience. I see you as a body or as a person, and we constantly think of them as the same thing, but in reality, yourself is happening from the inside out.
Yeah.
And it's obvious, and like everyone knows that, but it's interesting that they distinguished linguistically between the two experiences.
I'm gonna let you guys know that I'm gonna hop off real soon. Speaking of the poor, did you guys watch that clip from Mitchell and Webb that I sent?
Yeah.
On the group.
No, I don't think I did.
It's like 8 or 9 years old. It might be worth playing at some point, maybe on the next one. But those guys, you know, they somehow managed to capture, like, they were ahead of their time, basically. You know, and it's the whole idea is like, this politician's like, you know, maybe we could just type it into the computer, you know, and like, have we ever tried getting rid of the poor? Would that thing make things better, you know? And it's like a ridiculous take and joke on it, but like, I don't know, their ability to embed truth, you know, in that kind of sarcasm. It's like the one where they're the Nazis and they're like, are we the baddies? You know, having that sort of self-realization and self-commentary, and it was just, I don't know, excellent.
Yeah,
but we have skulls on our hats.
Hey, Jesse, before you go, did you have any music to talk about, or did you not add?
I forgot to choose one. I'll say it right now. Maybe I won't do the lyrics, but some TV show I was watching a little while back had this Nancy Sinatra track called Lightning's Girl. And it's a really cool, like, song. It's like basically what Lana Del Rey is trying to be, you know, but with a little more originality. and really cool distorted guitars. It's corny kind of concept and lyrics and stuff like that, and it's basically dated. But check out the production on it. It's really, really cool. Like big spacey drums, that kind of plate sound, and the way they drive the guitars is like, I don't know, sounds like really good solid state distortion, and kind of an edgy track for sort of a female pop rock, star.
Yeah, she's obviously most known for what's it called? These boots are made for walking, but it's kind of one of those overused tracks. But when you actually listen to it, the production is unreal.
Yeah, I mean it's a sort of a definitive sound and it's its own thing, and in a way it kind of relates to that topic of self-reliance, and this idea of expressing something from within yourself as opposed to regurgitating. Now, obviously everyone has derivative, influences and stuff like that. But when something kind of can distill into something that is original, that seems like it's coming from within the person, that I think that, and it's captured on record, is kind of cool.
Yeah, I guess one more thing on that point is that there's this idea that when it comes from you, that gives a better notion, and I love using that word, of what the self might be. Is this that it is universal in that sense, without going down to like, are we the sun? Like you were saying, we don't want to just make everything's all one, throw that cliche out. But when a voice comes from within inside you that connects to everything, then the self aspect, the way we use it currently as being like this very personal one thing, I am this and that, dissolves a little bit. And, that's how you can learn to perhaps trust what is yourself a little more, is when it is more universal.
Yeah, the language always falls short, but the your little self is clearly temporary, and it's bound to erode, and there may be a self which is not that. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna say bye, guys.
All right, see you next week. So I'll carry on with the songs here. I may have done this one before, but there was a show on Netflix called Embrace of the Serpent. It was a Colombian crime drama set in Colombia. It was an awesome show, like visually and the story. Everything was really cool about it. And they used some great music that I came across in there. This is a band called Grupo Pax de Iquitos. If I'm pronouncing that terribly, let me know. The song's called Garota Chiquila. And I started researching this music a little more. I don't think it's from Colombia. It may be, but I think it might be from Ecuador and Bolivia. There was South America, but on the equator. There were a bunch of bands that started making this psychedelic, cumbia-inspired, like, music, but sound like 70s psychedelic funk rock sort of thing. And it's just it's kind of like what happened in Ethiopia in the 70s, is you've got all this local music tradition meeting electric guitars, synthesizers, drum sets in that way. And it just created this really cool sound, and it sounds psychedelic. I don't even know what it's called, but you kind of picture it almost as if someone dropped a Jupiter 8 synthesizer into the Amazon jungle and people found it and started making traditional music with synthesizers. So really cool. Teen Boba Fett says, buy my favorite congas after Jesse left. He's not going to let this Forrest Gump thing go. So this lyric I picked is Dire Straits, Sultans of Swing. I had never paid attention to these lyrics. I love all their lyrics, but I almost sometimes that's a sign of a good lyric, because you don't have to think about it and it's good. So this is a line from Sultans of Swing. Check out Guitar George. He doesn't know. Fucking hell, I can't read. Check out Guitar George. He knows all the chords. Mind, he's strictly rhythm. He doesn't want to make it cry or sing. Yes, and an old guitar is all he can afford when he gets up under the lights to play his thing. And Harry doesn't mind if he doesn't make the scene. He's got a daytime job. He's doing all right. He can play the honky-tonk like anything, saving up for Friday night with the Sultans of Swing. And there's something I really respect about Mark Knopfler's lyrics because it's something I cannot do when I try to write lyrics, is paint a picture of a very specific scene that might be taken to have no significance, but he captures the essence of it so well that it is significant for no real reason. You know, describing in this song a little band that plays in the town square, and they don't care if they're stars or musicians and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I'd never read this before, so I didn't know that was about. And he just, I don't know, he's so brilliant at that, and I can't do that. I only write lyrics like "I am happy, I am sad." Da, 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 da.
Right.
I'm not exaggerating. All right, Dylan, what was your song for the week?
My song is Billy Preston, "Nothing from Nothing." Nothing from Nothing. Yeah, it's just a really cool track. Got to listen to it to appreciate it. There's a couple melodies in there that sound like the Beatles kind of ripped it off, but didn't they rip off one of his other songs, Billy Preston's songs?
I mean, he's all over the Beatles.
He worked with them a lot. Yeah,
the
did
one
a
of
bunch
the
covers.
My Sweet Lord, wasn't that a Billy Preston song?
No,
that was like a gospel traditional.
Oh yeah, okay. Anyway, yeah, Billy Preston's "Nothing from Nothing." Check it out. I won't try to describe it much more than that. Lyric is Joni Mitchell's "Turbulent Indigo." I start trying to think about lyrics that I really like, and I basically come back to Joni Mitchell. And all right, so this one is: you want to make Van Goghs, raise them up like sheep, make them out of Eskimos and women if you please. Make them nice and normal, make them nice and neat. You see him with his shotgun there, bloodied in the wheat. Oh, what do you know about living in turbulent indigo? Brash fields, crude crows, in a scary sky, in a golden frame, roped off, tourists guided by. Tourists talking about the madhouse, talking about the year. The madman hangs in fancy homes they wouldn't let him near. He'd piss in their fireplace, he'd drag them through turbulent indigo. I'm a burning hearth, he said. People see the smoke, but no one comes to warm themselves. Sloughing off a coat, and all my little landscapes and all my yellow afternoons stack up around this vacancy like dirty cups and spoons. No mercy, sweet Jesus, no mercy from turbulent indigo. That lyric for me, like, not weirdly, it made me understand Van Gogh more. Because I'm not a huge fan of his paintings, but I kind of became a little bit more interested in his paintings because of this song. He's become a meme. And it is funny. It's like you only talk about Van Gogh if someone doesn't know who he is, or if someone's not familiar with Impressionist painting or whatever he was. What era is he? Impressionist?
I think he's kind of Impressionist.
You go, the guy that cut off his ear because he was that. And it's like that's what he's become. Obviously, his paintings are like that. But she paints this picture, and whether his paintings are good or not, or you like him or not, it paints this picture of this absolute madman who they believe, I think, was going crazy because of
lead poisoning
or something like that. Yeah. But it just, like, he'd piss on your fireplace. And these paintings are hung in fancy homes, and it's a status thing. And people love talking about the madman. They love talking about this crazy guy, this crazy artist who did this, but they would literally never want to be around him or experience him in person. And
it's a little bit like the book Steppenwolf, Hermann Hesse. That people love the idea of a wild man.
Yeah.
And it's a very appealing idea, like this wolf that exists out there. But when it comes close, everyone gets scared. And there was that movie, The Square, Swedish movie.
Yeah.
I won't give it away, but there's a scene in that movie that is the best visual representation of that idea I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So that was Dylan. Let's go to Danny.
All right. So my song is Asterix Deep Jungle Walk. No, it's actually pretty cool. It's like a psytrance, really fast electronic music, and it's just highly aggressive and efficient, That one's pretty cool. They sampled
German.
No, he's actually like the Israelis are really into psytrance. I don't know why.
Oh yeah, no, I just meant because you said really aggressive and precise.
Yeah, this DJ's name is Asterix, or producer.
We played some of that Danny and I did a stream last week, Wednesday, for anyone that missed it, working on a new electronic track called Let's Go Spelunking. And it wasn't really inspired by that, but we were thinking, let's do something at that similar tempo to that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's different stuff. I mean, I could picture it working, for people on mushrooms and Red Bulls and whatever they're on. But he sampled the thing from Baraka, the Indonesian
monkey chant.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So sorry, just to interrupt before you do your lyric. Teen Boba Fett will not let this go. On the chat, he says, "Wait, does Danny hate Toy Story?"
Yeah, it sucks. What is it? I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I'm sure. Like, I don't like Tom Hanks and I don't like Quentin Tarantino. Now you can crucify me, and I don't even think crucifixion is the worst thing you could do to me. So,
Dina says Woody is annoying.
Yeah, see, this is how you hate. Hate is what fuels the internet.
All right, so your lyric.
My lyric is Billy Strayhorn, Lush Life. I don't know if someone chose this already, but it's a great lyric. I'll just read the first verse. I used to visit all the very gay places. That's back when that word meant something else. Those come what may places where one relaxes on the axis of the wheel of life to get the feel of life from jazz and cocktails. Also, picture painting. It just perfectly paints the picture of what you imagine a jazz cocktail lounge looks like, and then the song continues on to describe basically like a deep sadness,
So I've been trying to learn to play that song.
Yeah.
And just playing it, it's harmonically impossible. The chords go places that are not natural.
Right.
And it's very difficult to make it work. When the Monsters play it, it does work. And there's a John Coltrane, Johnny Hartman version, which I think probably one of our favorites. Nat King Cole does a version that's a little theatrical, but it's pretty amazing.
The only one I like is the Johnny Hartman. I feel like they're the only ones who kind of captured it in the right way. And the guy who
Everyone
wrote
else
it
makes it sound like a musical when it's actually quite I think should be treated kind of slow, sad, like it's smoky. I picture just like sitting in an old. It could be in a showroom. Like this is what you're saying about painting a picture. It's very imagistic, if that's a word, like that song.
Well, yeah, it's the tendency to make it theatrical is understandable,
right?
Because of the lyric and because of the complex harmony and the fact that it probably requires usually someone with those kind of singing chops to deliver it. But what they figured out was like, this song didn't come from that. It came from it came from a jazz club or a cocktail line. And the guy who wrote it was 16.
Yeah. I think what you were saying, the reason it tends towards theatrical, because even when I'm playing it, is the chords are so complicated that you're like, oh, fuck, I can't get through these. I'll just go, like play it theatrically, and it's like a get out of jail card. But yeah, he was 16 when he wrote it. It's not possible sometimes, these songs. We talked about that with the Jackson Browne
These days.
Sometimes it's not possible that there aren't multiple lives is my only explanation for how some kids can do certain things that they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That song, the Lush Life song, makes me think that the 20s and 30s is probably the era I'd want to most visit if there was time travel or to live in, because every era can be romanticized. You see a movie about the Vikings and you're like, yeah, I want to be a Viking. I could live in that time, or like some whatever it is, like farm life in the 1700s or this or that, and then the 60s. Everyone always romanticizes the 60s, and I've seen a bunch of video and footage of like Woodstock and all the hippies and stuff, and I'm like, I think I would just find these people fucking annoying. And when you think about the 20s or 30s and the music, I think that's what attracts me to eras more than anything is the music. And the music captured in the 20s and 30s. Well, you have like penicillin's been invented, so you're not like. There's certain medical advances and things like that. You're not electricity's around, the phone's around, all the kind of modern aspects of life are just starting to get on board. And then you have this cool music and cool vibe and then you had the Great Depression. But so before that, in between,
I think we might
1929 and
we might be in that right now.
Yeah.
Just to go back to what you were saying about hippies basically being annoying, I get exactly what you're saying. They're the people that you look at now on Instagram, like the Burning Man people or the yoga people. But The thing is, and I don't disagree with you with what you're saying, the 20s definitely does seem like a cool time, but I don't think it was any different then. I think people basically have always been these corny, annoying people. Like, they were the same dudes. These Instagram people that we keep pulling up on the podcast are not new. It's a new medium. There were definitely guys at parties in the 20s coming up trying to impress chicks with their poetry or
Dylan,
something.
Dylan doesn't like waxed mustaches, so he'd have to get over that. They
yeah.
probably had a lot of those back then.
Yeah, but I feel as modern technology has allowed people's like performance aspect of life to just constantly be proliferate. You know what I'm trying to say. It's made it. I think more and more people are like that, and more interactions, and more relationships and social situations are based upon that performance aspect of it, which I think maybe there's less of it.
You should read
No.
the Glassbead game.
Oh yeah.
You know, because he talks about, and it feels like he's writing about today, with journalism and journalists in the age of the feuilleton. He calls it the age of the frittering away kind of.
Yeah.
Like some of his lines, like a torrent of zealous scribbling poured out over every ephemeral incident, and that was 100 years ago.
He's talking about Twitter.
Yeah. I don't. Without getting into all the objective shit, the 20s is pretty appealing. The architecture is awesome.
Yeah.
Fashion's cool. Those lamps, cool lamps.
Basically, like the fashion of the 20s is still relatively timeless. Good suits.
Tommy guns.
Just lots of things that stand the test of time, I think, are even if it's only a few decades, it starts to be more attractive.
Yeah, I was out with a friend and we were both in our
me.
wool long coats, and we looked like, and he's got a mustache. He actually looks like he's from a different era, and he looked like he had a Tommy gun under his coat.
Well, it's Texas. He might have.
Yeah.
So yeah, internet puts annoying people on steroids. I think that's definitely an aspect of modern life, which is it's interesting. Like half of our podcast is based on it.
Yeah. I think the 50s would have been an annoying time.
Yeah.
There was it was post-war, so there was all this elation, understandably, like the war's over, and everyone's like, let's just be happy. Yeah. And I know my only perception of it is from like dumb 50s movies, but it seems like an annoying little period.
I think it was really annoying, and food sucked.
The 50s was the
advent
80s of the 70s.
It was the advent of industrial farming. Everything was now like new. Every form of plastic was just an amazing invention. So everything, the microwave, they were just like the food advertisements you see from the 1950s look like hell on earth. Like they're advertising the convenience of all this stuff. And so like all the things that are fun about life, food, and they were relatively still repressed because they were like still coming out of really religious times. So you got these repressed people who only eat microwaved fucking canned food that's coming out of post-war what do you call it?
The science.
Oil and
maybe these cycles of everyone's always attracted to the periods where interest rates were low. But maybe there is a relation there because the 20s there was so much liquidity, so much easy money, and it fueled experimentation and basically freeness. But then the price has to be paid, and then you need the people who, have pocket protector pens and Excel sheets to come sort the shit out because everyone fucked everything up.
Right.
So you need all the serious, uptight people to do their role too, and everyone doesn't like them.
Yeah, so if you had a time machine and you could kind of create an algorithm of which decades to visit, you'd analyze liquidity.
Right, periods before depressions.
Yeah,
but
Yeah, so maybe we are going to be in a very, very interesting and exciting. I mean, we are. It's hard to see it when you're living in it because you're everything's not a novelty. You take everything for granted.
Basically, I just think the Excel, spreadsheet people, they don't get their due.
I think this is partially why people like music with delay and reverb. It's like there's a nostalgia about the past, and I think sonically that's what delays and reverbs do. You get to hear things in the past a little bit, and
sorry, I'm reading Team Boba Fett's comment.
So read it for
he says, I think prehistoric time would be annoying. Imagine being actively in the food chain. Yeah, I agree. At the same time, I don't know what circles you hang around in, but have you ever met people that? And I'm kind of.
You'd
one
rather
of them.
be eaten by a lion than hang out with him.
Yeah. Everyone also fantasizes the world ending and going back to really primitive times and like zombie movies. Zombie movies are so popular because everyone fantasizes about having to live only essentially.
Right.
Right.
I do that all the time, and it's why they're so popular until you actually think about it.
Yeah.
What you want is the Disneyland version of that, basically, for life, which is it's a vacation. I only have to think about getting dinner.
Yeah.
That's effectively what you're saying. I only have to think about getting dinner, and I don't have to worry about work. I don't have to worry about my appearance, my social obligations, all of that. Like, everyone wants that. But the reality of that is not what anyone actually wants.
Yeah, like you could really just boil it down to tax season. Everyone starts fantasizing about zombie movies because they just want to get out of having to do their turbo tax.
Hey, Joe, will you turn AirDrop on? Because I feel like I have something perfectly relevant for this.
Yeah, well, how am I going to have to pull it up? A video?
Yeah. Oh, you can't do that?
I might be able to. It might get complicated. Save it for next week if you can. We can come back to it. In fact, let's stop this podcast so we can work on some music and do something utterly valuable to the world or useless. See you guys next week. Don't forget, tune in. We have Jane Leo, who's a great Austin-based band that we are doing, and we've done a remix for, which will be coming out December 9th, a track called Big Life. We'll start promoting that all over social media and that sort of thing. And then I'll try and make a better heads up of it, but we'll probably do another stream from the studio this week. Maybe just Danny and I. I'm not sure of the timing, but we're going to do another music stream. Probably, most likely. See you guys next week. Goodbye.